Good evening, and welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I will be your host this evening. My name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night, we chatted about at home with the masters and what life is like when you are one of the rulers of the Western world, and how they torture, rape, and abuse their own children, and have been for generation after generation. Thousands of years, actually. And how because of this, it's kind of unreasonable for us to even begin to think that they would care about what happens to us or our world or our babies or our civilization. It's just not reasonable from our point of view that dealing with people who are monsters, literally, and who create monsters of their own children, again, it's that problem of we're just not living literally in the same world as these folks. You know, it's as if the masters themselves were being controlled, manipulated by someone, or, dare I say it, something above them. That is someone I don't want to meet. I've heard stories, of course, and stories that are so wild and so bizarre and so completely mad that, I think I'll wait a while until you and I know each other better before I even get into any of that. But I will tell you one thing that I did hear that I never I never expected to hear, like I expected to hear any of this. And it does involve those above, and I mean way above, the masters of our tiny little world here on the outskirts of the galactic arm. There's a very large, very bright, very hard-to-miss star called Betelgeuse. The English like to call it Beetlejuice. Why you would call a star Beetlejuice? Well, you probably have to watch the movie. It seems that this very large, very bright, very prominent star has exploded. And it is so large and is so very far away that, the speed of light and all, it'll be a while before we would notice, but apparently it's exploded some time ago and the light just got to us, I guess. Again, I worked at NASA for 5 years, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronomer. I'm still trying to figure out most of the stuff they were doing at NASA, which made no sense anyway. So you wonder why a star exploding would have anything to do with us, and it's so far away. The sad truth is, if any of the stories I have heard are true, our little tiny world, flipping end for end, and then being dry cleaned by planetary lightning, we'll look back on that someday as a pleasant afternoon, a day in the country, if the stories I've heard about Betelgeuse are true. But with any luck, and Lord knows we could use some, that happy moment is millennia away, and none of us will ever know anything about it. Even those of us who survived the event probably will not be around hopefully will not be around whenever that happens. Sorry to be so obtuse, sorry to be, cloak and daggery, but there are some things I just don't know how to tell you, to be honest. I just don't know how to say the words and have it make any kind of sense to you. So how about instead tonight we chat about the increasing mail that we're getting here at the 2012 Fad from you folks, all centered around the same question. Well, what do I do now? Several ladies with small children, one lady with a newborn baby son, have written to us asking what they can do for themselves and their families, their little children. My answer is, as always, sadly blunt. Pack what you can, run for the hills, buy a gun, and be prepared to use it. It really does, in the end, come down to money. Those with money will survive. Those without money and who do not currently have, people living in a self-sustainable village somewhere in the mountains, living as their ancestors have lived for hundreds of years, they will not survive. Our masters know this, and it delights them. It tickles them. They are enjoying all of this immensely. The more of us who die, and the more pain we're in, the more horrible our agony is, the greater the master's joy. If we manage to die horrible, lingering, painful deaths in agony. They're just laughing. Now, I've had this conversation with numerous people over the years, of course, and I don't want to use obscenities when I talk to you because, frankly, when you use a lot of obscenities, you're degrading yourself as a person. But I'm not quite sure how to say. I've known so many people who have looked at me and said, you know, Charlie, we're going to go out, we're going to have lots of sex, we're going to have parties, we're going to leave you to do all this work about the future and the 2012 and the event, and we're going to go party and have lots of sex, and we're going to leave you here to work. And I'd sort of look at them and say, well, you know, I'd like to have lots of sex and, you know, party. Can I come with you? And they say, oh, no, we don't like you that much. This was always, of course, women. But we want you to stay here, do all of our work for us, prepare the future for us, and make sure we have everything we need for the event, and make sure you don't close the door until we get here. Well, you know, when I was a younger fella, and, you know, a pretty girl would say that to me, I'd say, oh, sure. Now I'm 52. I'm not young. Not even sure why I'm still alive, to be honest with you. So when I hear this kind of talk from pretty girls now, I just look at them and say, oh, well, you know, good for you, slamming the door in their faces. I've mentioned before that our masters are so different from us, from you and from me, that we can't even begin to communicate with them. Their glory, their goal is to worship and then go to hell and to serve their master, Satan, in hell. And, you know, the story I just told you about the girls going out and having lots of sex and partying without me and expecting me to, you know, do all their work for them and save them a place in the village. Sometimes I wonder if we're even communicating with each other. And, of course, it's the 98%, the cattle, and 2% of us who are trying to think. And then yet again, the 2% of us who think don't seem to be communicating either. What I really know, and I know this from personal experience, I've actually met people, not the masters, not the Mandarin class, and not the servants or the slaves of the Mandarin class, but what I would just describe as folk. I've actually met people who have told me that they're looking forward to dying in Satan's name and then going to hell and serving him. It doesn't matter if you believe in Satan. It doesn't matter if you believe in God. These people do. And this is how they live their lives. So again, how do we talk to people who worship Satan, who rape young girls, who get them pregnant, just so they can sacrifice the babies and then the young girls in ritual sacrifices? How are we going to talk to them about saving the planet, cleaning up the planet, pollution, unemployment? How are we going to do that? It's just not possible. I don't think there'll ever be a meeting of the minds between us and our masters or their servants. Why anybody would want to hurt people, I don't get it. But, you know, it's free will. So again, the question is, what do I do now? I replied to one lady, and I pasted my response to her on our website in this particular text file, so take a look. Now, there are plenty of websites you all can go to and find lists of survivalist gear you should have, heirloom seeds you should buy, and I strongly suggest that. I mean, whether you think the event is real or not, you should be prepared for any emergency anyway. I mean, we have earthquakes, we have cyclones, we have hurricanes, we have unending rainstorms. This is just common sense. You should have stuff in the garage packed away in case the water goes out, the power goes out, the sewers back up, or you just need to run for your life. But unless, and here's the problem, but unless you've been living the reality of the event for a couple of decades, as I have, and oh brother, I wish I hadn't. Honestly, I envy the 98%. I envy the cattle. I'd like to be the guy sitting on his couch, big screen TV, watching the game, a girl in one hand, a bottle of beer in the other, and a pizza on the way, you know? I really wish I was one of them, because this has brought me nothing but agony. and loneliness and torture, and it's been a nightmare. But again, unless you have lived this way, unless you truly know what's coming, and I'm very sorry, but unless you have the cash to buy your way into our village, where we know what to do, we have the designs going on 40 years now. We know what's coming, we know how to survive, we know how to live well. If you don't have the cash, all I can give you is some general advice, and I have to leave it up to you to do the best you can for yourself, do the best for your family. The problem is there just is not the time for anything else. And I really am sorry. Because we do have a plan here. And it's a plan 40 years in the making. Please, please have some sort of plan for yourself. For all of us here at the 2012fad.com, this is Charlie Bluehawk, wishing you a really good day. And reminding you, please, keep that good thought.